Hey everybody, this is Nate Smoyer, and you're listening to the Tech Nest Podcast. This is the show where we sit down with the leaders in real estate and technology to find out what they're doing to transform the way we buy, sell, and invest in real estate. If you've got an interest in real estate and technology, stick around. You're in the right place. All right, you guys are in for a treat on this episode. We have two guests. They're co-founders, majority women-owned company. We have Erina Malarkey and Anna-Lea Dieringer. They run a company called Remarkably, and they're changing how large commercial apartment buildings, 50 units and up, are looking at their marketing spend. See, there's this challenge here. Property managers may be great in managing the properties, but sometimes there's just things that maybe they don't have the skills or the expertise to manage in marketing. And while building owners are looking at saying, hey, we're spending all this money on marketing, but what do we have to show for it? Maybe they have some volatility in their portfolio, or maybe their portfolio is underperforming and they need to change something. But there's so many things to choose between. How do you know what to do? And that's exactly what Remarkably does. It brings in the insights that are actionable insights, telling that property manager or that owner and operator, hey, here are the things that you need to do to get your portfolio back up to snuff. So you're going to want to stick around and listen to this show. I think it was a great one. It's a fun one. There's a lot of laughter in it. You'll enjoy it. So stick around, kick back, enjoy the show. Well, hey, Erina and Anna-Lea, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate both of you taking some time to join me. Now, this is a little bit different format because normally it's just me interviewing one person, but I'm excited because we have co-founders on the show today. And I think you both balance each other really well, but there's equal amounts of energy and knowledge. And I just want to, hopefully we'll be able to extract all of that. And we're going to make Anna-Lea take some questions.
We are.
Has to take some questions here. Well, before we jump into it too far, we'll give both of you an opportunity to go ahead, introduce yourself, let everyone know who you are and what you do.
Awesome. All right. Well, Annalee, let's put you in the hot seat. You can go first.
All right. So, Anna-Lea Dieringer, one of the co-founders. I'm the CXO at Remarkably. So I'm essentially charged with leading the overall product and service experience for Remarkably, and partners in crime with Erina.
And I am Erina Malarkey. I am co-founder and CEO of Remarkably. I get us into trouble, and Annalee gets us out of it. I lead on fundraising, sales, and right now that's kind of those are the two primary hats that I'm wearing: overall operations, kind of domain expertise, etc.
All right. Now, before we go into details of what you guys do and the details of all that, let's talk about the name, because I feel like there's probably something packed in behind the name Remarkably. So that'll help us kick off the show right. Walk us through, how did you come across or land on the name Remarkably?
Yeah. Why don't I take that one? Because it's actually kind of a funny story. Erina and I were working with some really top branding minds on the name, and we probably went about 2.5 months, maybe 3 months brainstorming names. And we had all these goals in mind, right? That it had to be suggestive of commercial real estate and marketing, but not too narrow, multifamily, and should be short and no more than 3 syllables and blah, 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 and not have any conflicts, and we could buy the domain, right? We went through literally, I would say 8 or 9 rounds of naming, and the funny thing is Erina and I actually couldn't agree. So there was actually a name I liked. She didn't like it. It was a name she liked. I didn't like it. Finally, one day we decided to take matters into our own hands, and we sat down at the Good Bar in Pioneer Square.
I love that spot.
Right?
Yeah.
A couple of really stiff drinks and opened our laptops and forced ourselves to make a decision. And the funniest thing is, Remarkably was a name that had been on one of the first rounds, but the branding people we were talking to were like, no, too long, too complicated. But what we liked about it was just the meaning of Remarkably is so cool, right? Worthy of attention, surpassing other options, like just the idea of being remarkable. And also just knowing that, we were somewhat unusual in this vertical and in this industry as women-owned, women-led founders. And the other thing was that it's real estate and marketing. So remarkable. And we were able to buy the .io domain. So all of that happened in about 45 minutes and 2 drinks.
Oh, I think it's, personally, for what it's worth, I think it's great. I would have agreed with you guys probably on the first front. But I mean, if you hadn't gone through that, it might not have the same strength behind it or the same confidence of it. And I think it's a pretty cool story. And I think those always show like there's always different types of like stories behind a brand name, how people get to it. And it always reflects a little bit, I think, of the service that at least the aspirations of, that company, what they want to deliver. So walk us through here. What is the big problem that Remarkably is aiming to solve?
So we concepted Remarkably actually out of a previous company that Annalee and I owned together. So Annalee and I have known and worked with each other for over a decade. And previously we were owning a branding and marketing consulting firm. We worked exclusively in real estate, although across all asset classes. We did a lot of work in multifamily. And our clients are, the big owners and managers of real estate in the US kept coming to us with the same problems and challenges, which were, what am I getting for my marketing spend? What's working? What's not? I feel like marketing is this massive black hole that I throw dollars into and I have absolutely no idea what actually comes out. And so we set out to solve that. And we created a marketing analytics solution via our previous company, and we built it on Tableau, and we kept getting just tremendous feedback. So it was sort of a data visualization focused kind of analog solution. And the biggest owners, the biggest managers kept saying to us, nobody else is doing this. And so about a year ago, probably almost to the day, Annalee and I got brave or smart or some combination therein and decided to launch what is now aptly named Remarkably. So really the whole notion around this is how can you convert marketing from this expense line item, the coloring in department, the logo team, into a true strategic revenue producing predictable lever in your asset strategy. The idea being you have the largest asset class in the world. And what would happen if you could really fundamentally change value creation by adding another gear to the asset management bike, if you will, via more strategic marketing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've heard this too, from other different businesses I've talked to when they talk about their marketing budget. I mean, there's the old adage of 50% of our advertising is working. We don't know which half. But then, today, I mean, if you're any less than knowing, you can leave some like 10 or 20%. You're not so sure what exactly it's doing, but you really should. We have the technology. It's there and available to know what is working in marketing, what isn't. And you just happen to find a vertical that hadn't figured out how to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what's so interesting is that in real estate, you have the largest asset class in the world, but it has the least sophisticated marketing function of arguably almost any industry. And so you sit here and you think, gosh, okay, you have this massive opportunity and this total laggard, this total dinosaur. And so what would happen if you took a really deep domain expertise of real estate, branding, and marketing, and then supercharged it with a really sophisticated SaaS solution, which is what we've built.
That's so great. I love it. And it's so funny that you'd say, it is the largest asset class. I mean, the opportunity there is nearly endless, and especially in the US. I mean, we have the real estate that the world looks to put their money, park their money, but we don't have the tech to go along with it. We're still doing things on pen and paper, and so I love the approach to that. But how did you both end up in the vertical? Because you don't just say one day, you know what we want to go after? We want to go after like apartment building marketing. Like that's the industry, in career day you picked out in 5th grade. You're like, I want to market apartment buildings, what was the journey to that point?
Yeah. Annalee, do you want to start there?
Erina and I have known each other for a long time. She was actually my direct report about 15 years ago. P.S. Total pain in the ass.
Terrible employee.
And what's funny is we met each other because we were both in branding and marketing. So we actually met at a startup. And after that, she and I both went our own separate ways. And Erina essentially worked for a design firm and then worked for Unico Properties for a long period of time, both as an employee and as a consultant. And I actually, before that, had worked in the NBA and the NHL for a long time. Then I worked in the nonprofit sector, and then I worked in financial services. And so the two of us, when we came together out of our sort of previous companies, we had experience in real estate, financial services, and nonprofits, all of which really struggle marketing planning, right? Marketing measurement and marketing reporting. None of those industries or, verticals are experts in those fields. And so we just saw this massive opportunity. And when we started our previous consulting firm, we weren't necessarily focused on real estate. It just so happened that because we had that experience in real estate and with other laggard industries, and we were able to show how you can take marketing best practices and really up-level your marketing efforts in that area, we suddenly noticed after about a year, wow, 90% of our clients are in commercial real estate. Part of it was just listening to the market, right? The commercial real estate sector, we're obviously drawn to our offerings, and we really understood the industry and we really liked the clients. That was the other thing we talked about a lot, which was which clients and which projects are we enjoying the most, and which clients and which projects are we enjoying the least. And funny enough, commercial real estate was at the top of our list, and specifically multifamily was at the very top. And we just realized this actually isn't that hard of a decision. It just takes the courage to double down and focus. That's what we did. And it immediately paid dividends for our previous company. And I think it's been the reason why we've been so successful remarkably, because we chose to have that very rigorous focus despite a ton of pressure to have a broader focus.
Yeah, definitely. There's the cliche saying no to something lets you say yes to something. I don't know how it goes, but I mean, definitely.
Nate, the riches are in the niches.
There, that's even better. I like that one. The riches are in the niches. But I mean, that allows you to actually build a product that's specific versus, because there's 1,000,001 marketing and sales tools out there. But I think one of the challenges, especially in real estate, and I'm sure you guys understand this, and we'll get into specifics here, but in real estate, there's nuances. There's a lot of nuances to the transaction process and timelines. You have rules and ordinances and laws that you have to follow that aren't the same from town to city to state. And so, building, you can't just take, off the shelf sales and marketing tools and apply it to real estate often, because they're not built with that in mind. They have other type businesses. So what would be some of the specific, maybe say, solutions or scenarios, if you will, Remarkably would be providing for a client?
Yeah. So why don't I go ahead and take that one? So there are three scenarios within which we find that we drive really meaningful value, and we're seeing really strong, exciting early traction. So the first is your quintessential underperforming asset. So be it an underperforming existing asset or a stalled lease up, or what has been lovingly dubbed by the team now as the hot mess asset.
Is it on the website like that? I missed that. Is there a category? Is your property a hot mess?
Right? Call us. Remarkable.
I like that.
So that's that first category. So instances where people are feeling a really significant amount of pain. So you have an asset, massive targets and objectives as it relates to cash flow, asset valuation, and a very typical scenario is a client will call us and they'll say, I have this building, I'm treading water at 70% occupancy, I can't figure out how to move the needle. The only solutions anyone has given me are to drop rent rates, which I don't want to do, or spend more money on marketing, but they can't even tell me what the marketing dollars I am spending are producing. I need a better solution. So that's that kind of first category. The second category is actually on the pre-development side, on the ground up development. So we started having clients come to us who would say, I don't have any underperforming assets. It's kind of a point of pride, but I do have something ground up, and gosh, wouldn't it be smart if I could make my multi-$100-million development on a more data-driven strategic fashion versus sort of throwing a dart in the dark, being what sticks. So that second category on the pre-dev side, we can help clients identify where's the market opportunity, how should that impact things such as unit mix, pricing structure, amenities programming, and then how to take that asset to market in such a way that will produce the highest ROI for every pre-leasing and leasing dollar that you spend in that development budget. So that's that second category. And then the third, which interestingly enough, the market, again, back to Anna-Lee's point about listening to the market, that the market actually identified for us was this idea of asset or portfolio optimization. A cohort of customers who kept coming to us and saying, I don't have anything underperforming, I don't have anything in development, but I do have more volatility within my stabilization range than I would like. So by that I mean they have a building, they're at 95%, everyone's happy, everyone's high-fiving in the hallways, they slide down to 90%, everyone crosses their fingers and closes their eyes and hopes for the best. They slide further down into the high 80s, and this is literally what's happening across massive portfolios. They slide down to the 80s, everyone panics, they dump rent rates, they buy residents effectively, and they move back up. And the volatility in lost cash flow at a single asset, but more importantly across an entire portfolio, is significant. So those are the three scenarios within which we're seeing a lot of traction, and you can really drive tremendous value within that.
And we're talking, first off, that's awesome, and I love the three different categories there. What's the top category? So we have hot mess all the way up to what? What do you call that latest one?
So there's the accelerate package, which is effectively get me to goal, all the bells and whistles. That's the unofficial hot mess category. There is the optimize, which is the help me achieve stabilization and then maintain it. And then there is the plan category, i.e. that ground up development.
The ground up, yep. And we're talking buildings that we're not talking 16 and 20 unit buildings. We're talking large developments. We're talking. Give me an ideal range. Like someone's thinking, okay, this sounds like something I could use or I'd want to use. How many units are we talking as an ideal client?
Yeah, so we find that the platform really pencils most dramatically at 50 units and up, and then frankly, sky's the limit from there. I had a prospect call the other day who said we have an 1,800 unit building. I said 800. He said 1,800. Like, great.
That's a small town.
I know, it's about the town I grew up in.
Wow. And I'm assuming that's more than one building, right?
Exactly. Yes, I think there are two buildings in that scenario, but
okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so these companies then too. So are these all institutionalized companies? Are you working with independent owners or these large conglomerates?
I'll start, but then Annalee jump in because Annalee's on the front lines with everybody. So what's been really interesting is if you think about the audience taxonomy of the landscape, you have kind of your capital players, i.e. your owners, investors, developers, and then you have your property managers.
Mm-hmm.
What we're finding super exciting is that we're actually getting brought in by both sides of the aisle. So there have been instances where the property manager brings us in and basically says to the ownership group, in order for us to achieve what you want, we need better tools, we need better resources, we need Remarkably. And then we've had instances where the ownership groups bring us in and they say to the property managers, you guys are amazing, you're amazing at property management, let me give you some marketing resources as well. So it's interesting because definitely it is, if you're in that kind of unit and up, you are seeing these as more of those sort of Class A institutional players. But we're working with everybody from some of the largest property managers in the U.S. to more kind of privately held boutique owners as well.
Annalee, did you have something that you wanted to throw in there?
No, I think that's
so well summed up.
Yeah.
You didn't leave any on the table here, Erina. So what's some of the feedback then you're getting from, both the property management side and the builders, developers, owners as to, okay, they're working with you and they gave you the reason, here's why we chose you. What's that reason that you're hearing coming back?
Yeah, so I'll start, and then Erina, I'd love to have you pile on. But what's really interesting is some of the reasons people really like our platform have been a little bit surprising. So one of the things that I hear consistently is how excited people are to see so much data aggregated and served up in such a clean, simple, user-friendly way. So I think in some ways, asset managers and owners and property managers have almost become accepting of the fact that they have to deal with like 80-page reports of dense tables of text. And that's just the nature of the beast, right? And that there are no insights. It's hard to decipher. There are so many fragmented data sources and reports. And I think people have just accepted that as a necessary evil. And so one thing people are so excited about is this aggregated kind of executive level view and that very user-centric approach we've taken to the UX and UI design. That's been one thing that's been surprising because I was really excited about that when we kicked this off, and it's something that I hope people would like. But I think people's reaction to that even more positive and even stronger than I had anticipated, which has been great. I think that people really love is even just the visualization of the market analysis that we do, and also modeling. Those two things I would say are the two most differentiating features and the things that people get really excited about, which is here's a detailed breakdown of your specific market, tailored to your building. And here's how you could potentially get to goal based on, let's say, a schedule-driven scenario and an investment-driven scenario. And here's how that compares to run rate. In other words, if you did nothing differently, where would that get you versus these other two strategies? The really positive feedback has definitely been in those two areas. Overall user experience.
Yeah. And I'll just add from the sales side. So as the current global sales team of one, unfortunately for everyone, I think the other thing is people really are desperate for a better solution. So people have been managing these assets with spreadsheets and sticky notes and whiteboards, and there has been huge lost cash flow, degradation of asset value. So I think what I've been excited about is just how desperate people are, for Anna-Lea's point, to have this intersection between, one, meaningful insights, actually help me make heads or tails of all this data that I'm drowning with. Two, recommended actions, like please tell me what to do. And then three, measurable results. What is the actual outcome? I pulled this lever, I made this investment. What actually happened? And so I think converting marketing from that black hole into this sort of strategic lever has been something that people have been kind of, it's sort of the light has just turned on. So that's been really exciting.
That's so cool. I mean, I see that in my business too, where, when you provide insights to any one particular business with like, here's what all that stuff means. Right. And and I'm sure you guys now experience that, like you see like the light bulb moment where someone looks at it like, oh my goodness, why has no one showed me this before? And it's just a ton of work, which then makes it that much cooler because you guys have a platform that is doing that for them. So it's not as arduous as call the agency, okay, put in your request for a report, wait 3 weeks or whatever it takes to get the report. They now have ongoing live actual insights, which makes sense because if you don't know if, you should be putting more money into marketing, should you adjust the rent rates? I mean, what are you supposed to be doing here? Because the choices are, unlimited. Let's keep moving on. So you guys are based in Seattle. Shout out to the Northwest. Represent. I keep trying to tell everyone this best kept secrets are in the Northwest, but we're not going to be secret that much longer. But so are you guys only focusing on the local market, or are you also going outside of Seattle and or are you already branching nationwide?
Yeah, so we're already in, Annalee, what is the latest count? 7 or 8 markets?
8.
We're in 8 markets, and it's actually funny. Seattle was not kind of one of our first, so we'll see if I can get them. But so we're already in Seattle, Portland suburbs, Salt Lake, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Sacramento suburb. I'm missing a couple in there, but so we're already the world domination strategy has already begun.
Do you guys have a map with all the pins of where you're going and where you are?
No, but we should.
Like green is where you're at and blue is where you're going?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of blue pins.
There we go. So you guys are already looking to expand nationwide, but do you have any particular markets you have your eyes set on that you feel would be best suited for Remarkably, or do you feel that you can meet just about any market's needs?
Annalee, do you want to take that one?
I was just going to say, I actually think, honestly, we're a great choice for anyone in any market because we are collecting benchmarks within markets, also across markets. So we're starting to get some really interesting national average data and also some market-specific data. And what I've been kind of surprised by is, the interest from these emerging markets. We've had much more interest from emerging markets than some of these more mature markets, which I also find interesting. People are really hungry for data about those markets and also for help because they tend to be a little bit more challenging than some of the more mature markets, which is also just exciting because it gives you a tool to help those people in those emerging markets who really need it. It's been great.
Yeah. No, and I asked that because, I spent a year living in the South, and so that was interesting. Believe it like that. I'm originally from the Northwest, or Northeast, Philly. So, and now living in the Northwest, like I compare and think about this. I was like, well, Philly has been kind of stagnant for some time. Nashville's exploding. But then if you go a little bit west, you go to Memphis, it's still half looking like a war zone. And then you come up to the Northwest and it's, vacancy rates of like 0.5%. And so you're trying to like think through like, how would this adapt? But it sounds like that's the whole point, is there's a lot of different levers and things that you can do. And that's what you're helping the building owners in those different markets understand. Hey, I should be doing this or I should be doing that. It's not one fix, all buildings.
Yeah.
Get it. Love it. So as you're expanding here, because, we got to talk a few months ago and you guys are brand. What is the official launch date of Remarkably? It's like January, right?
Yes. So Remarkably officially incorporated, I think it was January 2nd because the banks were closed on January 1st and no one would talk to us. So January 2nd was the official incorporation date. And then the platform had its first kind of code release mid-March, Annalee, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So,
That's amazing.
I know.
And you're in 8 markets already. So what is driving the growth?
Sheer determination.
Are you guys door knocking?
I'll let Annalee describe what's happening.
So Erina is, as some of our early partners and investors have described, is just relentless. She is relentless. She has been, she's obviously a sales-centric CEO and probably among, some of the most sales-centric CEOs that some of our partners and investors have ever seen. She has been super focused. So the nice thing is we have a pretty amazing network of just connections and relationships within the real estate industry. And we've met a lot of amazing people at events, like the CRE tech events that we've been to. And so Erina has a long list of people who are really interested in this platform that have mostly been brought to us through word of mouth, introductions, events. It's actually been very one-to-one and mostly through networking. But Erina has been demoing this product from really early stages, where it was more about the vision than anything else, to now where she's literally demoing a live link to the platform, and just honestly sheer determination and prioritization of getting those customers in the door and getting all that feedback. And the most amazing thing about her bringing in these first clients has been that it's given us the opportunity to get really early feedback. And that feedback is shaping the tool. It's literally shaping the platform and the features we're deciding on every 2 weeks, right? Every sprint planning meeting, we're taking the customer feedback and figuring out where to prioritize it and how to deliver it and getting feedback on these solutions. So it's actually been it's been fun to watch Erina and listen to Erina. I think everyone in the office has memorized her demo script.
That's awesome. I love it.
Right?
What's one joke that no one laughs at that's in the middle of the script? I'm just kidding.
There's no jokes that no one laughs at. They wouldn't make it. They'd get the cut. They'd get the
No sense of humor. Take it back. Let's go.
No, but I'll just add, Nate. So part of it has been, sheer relentless determination and grit, of which Annalee and I are both rich in. I sometimes like to joke that starting a startup is sort of like learning how to water ski, where you're basically being dragged behind the boat, you're sucking in water, and you're getting like kicked around, but you can't let go, which is sort of like learning to water ski was for me. And I think there's been this degree that has just been sort of sheer determination and choking a lot of water, but not letting go. But I think more so it's also been that the market is so desperate for a better solution. So my fastest close yet so far is 96 hours, which in this industry is pretty incredible. I cold called into one of the largest property managers in the US, got a first meeting on Thursday, had a second meeting on a Friday, sent them the contract on Sunday, and they signed on Monday. So I think, the 27 demos a day doesn't hurt, but I more so it's that people are just so desperate. It is totally time, and there hasn't been a better option until now.
Yeah. Well, that kind of answers, one of the questions I had was like, why now? And you just answered it. Is there's not been a better time. People are asking for it, looking for it. And, for what it's worth, the world of sales and marketing tools for some reason seems to, I don't know, they don't seem to recognize all the buildings that they're working in.
And it's such a good question, this sort of why now question, right? And of course, it's something that a lot of people have asked. And I'll share a couple of thoughts, and then Annalee will no doubt have something more thoughtful to say. But what I think a huge part of it has also been that real estate, someone actually once said to me yesterday, people, real estate, they're just sort of a bunch of lemmings, and it takes a bit of pressure to get them to do anything differently. And so real estate, of course, is highly cyclical. We've had this amazing boom for multiple years. And there was a period there where if you build it, they will come. If you built a, moderate apartment and put in some stainless steel appliances and put in a kegerator in the lobby, the building would fill itself. And what we've seen is that as things begin to soften and cool a little bit, that while everyone else has sort of come through this digital revolution of the last 10 years, real estate is just picking its head up and just seeing it for the first time, because suddenly marketing dollars are going to have to work harder, smarter, faster. They're going to have to be more strategic, more on the offensive. And so I think that's this other big piece, is that real estate sort of missed the digital revolution because it was sort of in this heyday of the last boom. And so we do see see an element of this that's almost sort of anti-cyclical in that as people just have to make those dollars go a lot farther, make deals work they wouldn't have had to in the past, there's now, again, this major sense of urgency of, okay, a newspaper ad and a Craigslist, banner isn't going to cut it anymore.
Yeah, totally. And I think that, even as if we do see a market turn or cool down, I think that the best of the best are going to really rise and actually do well through that will shine. And those who don't adapt and those who don't move with as any other industry and adapt to new technology will probably get left behind, which, I've done my own study and research on this. That was actually one of the original rises of Trulia. They had raised all their capital right before the crash, which good on them because that could have been awkward timing, but and then they were able to push through that, and because of that, they were positioned well to come out of that crash and really thrive. I know it's only been a short time you guys have been up and running with the platform, but is there anything that you started working on, or you had headed down the path and realized, hey, that's not right, we need to go this direction? It's only been a few months, but I mean, is there any stories of any minor pivots or failed experiments as you guys have been going here?
I'll lead on that. And it's so funny because honestly, one of the things that has been a bit of a pivot moment for us is just, again, back to the focus piece. Because we have been working on these problems for years, we almost have too many ideas. Like in some ways we had, before we had our MVP, we had these early versions, we'd already gotten a bunch of feedback, we'd already gotten a bunch of ideas, even over the past 3 or 4 years of working together. So we have this unbelievable backlog of ideas for what we could do, right? And our CTO, Todd Cullen, is amazing because he's really helped us come in and focus on things that are incredibly important in terms of building a smart, strategic SaaS play in terms of how you sequence the features and how you inform the priorities and all these things. I would say one of the things probably one of the biggest mistakes we made at the very beginning was trying to do too much too quickly. And that lack of focus was exhausting. And frankly, it was just hard to get traction. Once we got really laser-like in terms of, okay, these are the 4 key components of the platform, right? Measurement, the market analysis, the modeling, and the planning. Even just agreeing those are the 4 starting MVP components, and we're going to do our very best job at those 4 things. We're not even going to talk about anything else. 6 weeks or 8 weeks. That was super helpful. And I think Todd bringing in that level of discipline around just implementing formal sprint planning and just road mapping was incredibly helpful. And wasn't, Erina and I definitely were excited about a million features and kind of wanted to implement everything instantaneously because we knew all these things could help, but now we have a much better plan for how to roll them all out.
Yeah, I've heard about this sprint schedule that you have your poor CTO on.
Well, he's the one implementing it. He's in charge. But yeah, no, it's funny because in some ways, Erina and Todd and I are sort of the perfect combination because Erina has this deep domain expertise in commercial real estate. I have deep domain expertise in terms of marketing operations. And then Todd brings this unbelievable ad tech and engineering background. And I think all 3 of our approaches together have been actually great, but we also push each other all the time in ways that are both delightful and terrible all at the same time.
I truly don't think you could build this company or a company like this without, it is an unbelievably unique set of skills. We've had clients say to us, I would never buy this if you didn't know real estate. With clients say I would never buy this because the real estate solutions out there haven't had the degree of sort of tech savviness that I'm looking for. We've had clients who say there are cool softwares, but when the rubber meets the road, they don't actually deliver. So the trio, Annalee and I, like we said, we've long had the other, and now we have Todd. I think the trio is quite unique and required.
Yeah, I think you're totally right on that. Of all the tools and things I see all the time, a lot of them, they're not truly software. They're just, there's an order form and then someone's building something manually each time, there's not really a tool, which, it's fine, it's okay, but it's not really taking things to the next level. And I think you're right. The deep domain expertise, I get contacted quite frequently from people saying, hey, I was thinking about starting this business and we're going to sell to real estate agents. And I say, why? He's like, oh, well, they make so much money. And if they just close one deal, I'm like, well, I think you're missing a lot of the things about this industry. So, maybe pump the brakes on that. And I think that's a great feedback. Speaking of money, so I got a few questions around money, and we'll start here first. You guys had to raise a little bit of funding, or you had raised some funding to get started, right? Can you talk to me about what that process was like, who you worked with, and how much you had to raise to get up and running?
Yeah, I'll take that. So we raised a small pre-seed round. We raised $800K pre-seed round. Basically, stand up the company, build the MVP, make some of these critical hires, such as our CTO, and so that was sort of that initial component. We're moving into now kicking off a seed round. So moving into an active fundraising mode, kicking off a seed round, and that will then lead through to a Series A, probably 18 months down the road. And we've been really, I will say, I mean, Annalee and I just feel so lucky to have the degree of support and encouragement from the industry that we've received. So there are some incredible angels that came into the pre-seed round. Brandon Weber of Hightower, now BTS, is one of our angels and advisors. Molly Fadul of Cephas Partners is in there. Pioneer Square Labs came in as kind of the first true institutional capital into it. And the support and people's just time and generosity and capital has been really, really exciting to see. And I will tell you one funny story, Nate, which is that a portion of the pre-seed round also came from a first date that I went on.
That is relentless. You were selling on the first date. He says, what do you like to do for fun? Well, let me tell you about my company and what we're doing. And if you just sign here, it's just an NDA, no big deal. Did you bring an NDA with you?
You joke, but that's not a totally inaccurate representation. So met a lovely fellow, had a lovely date. He and I both agreed, you're smart and interesting, but not for me. And apparently I may talk too much about our business, because where he ended was, I don't know that I want to go on a second date with you, but I'd like to invest in your company. That was the best.
That is by far the funniest story I've heard yet. Now we've done like 40 some episodes already. Takes the cake right there. Most unique way to help pick up a company right off the ground. You didn't go into the date with that expectation, but that's the true spirit of real estate. You don't go into the grocery store intending to talk to the person, trying to figure out which cantaloupe is right, to say, hey, do you know anyone looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? But if they happen to say, hey, I see your name tag says you're in real estate, well, you open the door.
That's right. It was an off-market deal.
That's so awesome.
Erina, you got to get back on Tinder.
Just match up the connections. There's so many prospects.
Right? Not the seed round. Time to get back on.
All right, so let's, because I want to talk about a little bit more funding here. So this is unique. So, one of the things I made a very intentional approach about with the show, I think we went the whole first season. I don't think I had interviewed a single woman on the show. I read a piece from Mike Beckerman, and I looked at my show, what I had in season 2, and I think we only had one woman on the show. I said, okay, so shout out to Alyssa Harper, by the way, Buy Side. She has helped me. She's made some introductions for me because, truthfully, I looked at my network and I said, well, I just know a bunch of dudes. That's who I know. Now, so I'll get to the point here. I'll try and wrap that up quickly. So it's the first time we've had co-founded company, both women on the show, and you've both raised money. And I read 2 interesting articles this past week. One was 2018 was a record high for women co-founded companies in VC funding. But if you look at women-only owned companies, it was just over 2% of all venture funding. And it was like, okay, so, it was saying if you're purely male-founded, 83% of venture funding went to your business last year. So when you're raising money, though, then you're in real estate, it's a male-dominated sport, so to speak, and then you're trying to raise money. Like, are you seeing any roadblocks, or do you feel that you have the right people around you that have really pushed through those barriers?
Yeah, so I think people are desperate for change. So the stat you just referenced is one that we see and read about frequently, which is exactly, less than 2% of all VC funding goes to women-owned businesses, which is staggering. And yet there is, case study after case study, national stat after national stat that women-owned and women-led businesses actually perform better. So similarly to how customers have been looking for a better solution, I think investors have also been looking for great women-owned, women-led companies, and especially in male-dominated spaces. So it is not atypical for us to be the only women in the room. I think that happens on a more regular basis, certainly than we wish it did. But frankly, it hasn't really been the topic of conversation. It's been more about massive market, great team, great product. But it's something that Annalee and I are super passionate about, is this idea of really creating opportunity for women supporting women, creating opportunity for every facet of the business, and really creating a very necessary shift and change from what the current status quo is. Annalee, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, it's also just funny because I think there's some degree of comfort and familiarity among both of us in terms of working in a male-dominated field. So one of the things that occurred to me a couple of weeks ago is that I've always worked in male-dominated industries. I mean, I worked in the NBA, I worked in the NHL, I worked for an asset management firm, and now I'm in multifamily marketing. It's just interesting. There have been so many men in all those industries that it's become normalized for me. I think I'm so used to working with men all the time that it's not something Erina and I actually talk about very much. I mean, we're super proud that we are a, majority woman-owned company, and we're a woman-led company, and we're huge proponents for women in real estate and real champions for just women business owners, because there's not a huge community of those.
Right.
So we're definitely advocates for that. But it's interesting because when we think about the gender dynamics, like even just in this recent seed round activity, I would say, if and when we've had any, negative feedback or tough questions or whatever, we never go back to, is it because we're women? We always focus on, that's a great question. That's something we should focus on, or that's great feedback. We should really make that better. I mean, we don't tend to focus on that aspect in a negative way as much as we just want to make sure we capitalize on the opportunity and just make sure that we continue to be advocates for it.
That's great. I think that's probably some pretty good advice for then maybe other women founders who find themselves not sure where they're at or feeling maybe alone, is try to take those questions as constructively as possible, but maybe also, you both have each other to work with and some amazing people. And I know that there's a few networks out there, but like you said, there's not many available specifically for women. So, well, we'll transition from there, and I appreciate that feedback there. And we're going to go into my favorite segment of the show. This is called For the Future. For the Future is a segment where I get to ask each guest who comes on the show to give their best predictions based on the following 4 questions. Erina, Annalee, are you ready to play?
I'm terrified. But yes. So I'm going to totally fail.
There are no phone a friends or ask the audience on this. So, all right. Question number 1. What does Remarkably look like 1 year from now? This is like a dating game. So like, okay, Erina, you write down the answer. Annalee, you give the answer. We'll see if you both line up. I'm just kidding.
You should take that one.
Yeah. So a year from now, it remarkably looks, no pun intended, remarkable. Those first 8 markets are now, 25 plus markets. That initial customer cohort has grown by a significant magnitude. And our current MRR, which we're super proud about in terms of early days, has again, basically about 20-fold. So in a year, you start to really start having a significant platform, portfolio, data play. And I will say the team of 8, which all look pretty exhausted at the moment, that we have just an incredible team and everyone is working so hard, hopefully looks a little less tired, because there'll be a much bigger team behind them.
Very cool. Question number 2. What does the housing market look like 1 year from now? You both gave the same look.
Separated at birth.
Wouldn't everyone love to answer that? And I feel like there's so much speculation about that right now. And
this is the brilliant play on my side, right? I bring on the smartest people I know, and then I ask them to give me the crystal ball answer. Where is the market going to be? Boom.
Clever, Erina. I think you should take that one.
So I agree. I mean, crystal ball. I think it's really. I think it's going to be highly market dependent. So you've got these core markets, you've got emerging markets. We do anticipate you're going to see some softening, but in a market like Seattle, where you have, if nothing else, the Amazon effect, I think we will see a slower growth acceleration than we've seen. But I don't see that drastically changing anytime soon.
Yeah, tend to agree. Okay, question number 3. What's one industry trend you think will continue, but you wish would go away?
That's a great one.
Wow, that is a really good question. Think about that one.
Oh, I have one. People are going to keep saying resi. I think they're just going to keep saying resi. I wish they wouldn't. Like, you have time. Say the whole word. Multifamily. Okay.
The term resi?
Resi, yeah.
All right, there you have it. Resi is outdated. Don't look a fool. Question number 4, and the final for the future. What's one thing you believe will dramatically change or fade away in real estate as a result of technological advances?
Nate, this is a tough 4th question.
Oh, no, this one's easy. This is easy. Peasy. It's fine. This is why you have to listen to all the other 40 episodes, and then you can just take an answer.
What do you think, Erina? Do you want to take that one?
Oh, this one's all you. This is like the land of Annalee. Yeah. Spreadsheets are going to be out, and solutions like Remarkably are going to be in.
So I think so. So one thing I think is a really interesting. Well, actually, it's funny because we have so many friends in the proptech and martech space. I want to be careful what I answer because I clearly want to support all of our.
Honesty is the best policy, right?
In terms of technology, in terms of one of the things that is, I think, kind of back to your question earlier, a little bit spanning questions 3 and 4. Is there's a piece of technology right now that sort of gamifies or influences apartment reviews. And I feel like that there's an element of transparency that's always been so highly valued. I mean, this is happening on Amazon too, right? Like any sort of marketplace where reviews can be influenced by giveaways or discounts or gift cards or whatever. I think there's an interesting opposition growing lately is just online reputation management through influence. But I feel like I need to think about your 4th question purely and maybe call that in because I really want to give some thought to it. Erina, I don't know if you have one up top of your tongue, but I have almost so many thoughts about it. I focus or prioritize how to even begin that list.
Yeah, and this is why Annalee is our CXO, because she's so thoughtful.
That's all right. We'll give you a pass on this one. We'll come back at a later time. Maybe we'll do a dedicated 1-question answer to this one. We'll follow up.
Yeah, because I really want to put some thought into that one. I think it's a great question.
All right, we're going to move into the last 3. These questions are more about both of you, so our listeners get to know you two. First one is, and you both have to answer each question. No passing the buck on this one.
All right.
First one is, what are you reading?
I just finished Where the Crawdads Sing, which Annalee recommended.
Yeah. Oh, man. So you're going to laugh. Actually, the most recent book I read was actually a book on multifamily marketing that I was evaluating for our onboarding process. Because I wanted to hear the all new hires.
What's the book?
So I believe it's actually called something like, it's literally like a guide to multifamily marketing or something like that. It was actually pretty good.
I think is that the one with the yellow on the cover?
Black with yellow lettering.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting point though. I went on to Amazon to look at the options, right? Because I was thinking about our onboarding package. And I think there was actually only one book that was highly rated in maybe.
Is that by Josh Grillo?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the only one. And I just thought, wow, okay, so our next career should be authoring a book on multifamily marketing.
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yes.
I know some people if you guys want to write a book. All right, question number 2. Who are you learning from?
Well, so I will say, so we joke. So Annalee and I met in 2006 and she was my boss and I was terrible. So I learn daily from Annalee and we have such complementary skill sets. I mean, if you were to plot us on, Strengths Finder, Myers-Briggs, Color Insights, anything, we're both just monsters, but monsters on the absolute opposite ends of the spectrum. And so I think, Annalee always has a different perspective than I do. And then I'll just also add, again, going back to just how generous mentors have been. So it's the Brandon Webbers, it's the Ellie Feingolds, it's the Molly Fadules, who are taking texts from me at midnight with some crazy idea I have about how to further advance women in the industry, or my seventh version of our pricing structure. Pioneer Square Lab, definitely, they have an amazing mentor program. So I am learning to a humbling degree on a nearly minute by minute basis. Really close to home, it's Annalee, and then it's just been this incredible group of mentors who are so generous and who have, as they put it, have tried to help us make 25% less mistakes than they made.
Got it.
So in an attempt to avoid people's gag reflex, I won't, Erina, talk about what I've learned from you.
I know.
Basis, just so people don't gag. But I think the two people I would probably mention would be, honestly, Todd, our CTO. He is such an expert in the SaaS arena. And we have learned a ton from him, even just about scalable, right? The business that's truly scalable, which is, of course, inherent to, the software play. But Erina and I come from a much more service-oriented background and experience. A lot of our world has been everything is tailored, everything is white glove, everything is one-to-one, is the most unscalable business model in the world.
Yep.
And so we're super excited about all the potential in the software world, and we're learning a lot about how to basically kind of wean yourself off of this idea of everything being a custom service into things being scalable, repeatable, and beneficial to the largest group of people possible while still offering the same value that a tailored service would. So just learning a ton literally daily from him about even just the opportunities for how to grow and improve our product and our business and our margins. The other thing I learn from all the time, honestly, is my family and my kids in particular. I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old daughter, and they just remind me what's important on a regular basis. And even just being a woman in business, like sometimes I forget how much they listen to and how much they retain. And the other day I was talking about something and my younger daughter, Lucy, was like, how many customers do you have now? And I told her the number and she's like, well, that's not very many. I'm like, actually, it's really like, lay off. I'm working on it. Lucy. And then my other daughter was so funny because we were talking about something to do with the fact that we're a woman-owned business. And my 10-year-old pipes up, well, yeah, your PSL is first woman-owned spin-out. And I was like, it blew my mind. I think one of the things I learned is to not underestimate the power of being a role model and the power of being a successful female entrepreneur in the eyes of my kids and how much that influences them. It's just super rewarding and it's adorable.
Yeah.
They gave me, both girls gave me good luck notes for when we kicked off our fundraise, which included sort of photo or, stick drawings of myself presenting to a large room of investors and line graphs going up. And
you leverage that in the pitch. It's so good, even kids believe in us.
Right? It's in the memory Slack channel. But those little things make a big difference. The girls are amazing.
And you had a killer high pony and some really sassy bangs.
Super cute bangs. Way cute in my hair today.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 3. What inspires you?
I think maybe I just answered that in a lot of ways. Honestly, yeah. I think being a woman technology business founder and just
Oh, we lost her.
Well, we lost Annalee. Hopefully she'll return here. Erina, you're up.
Okay. I think for me, it's you think about women and then you think about women in business and that pie gets really small. And then you think about women in business in tech and it's like tiny slice. And you think about women in business in tech and real estate. I mean, I think without exaggeration, you can probably count on, maybe one hand the number of women CEOs in proptech in real estate. And so what I'm super inspired about is the idea of affecting change, of shaking things up, of doing things differently, and of changing an industry that frankly is long overdue. So I'm super motivated by this idea of, okay, we can fundamentally change value creation for the largest asset class in the world. And we can do it as two, women co-founders in a space that has had very little exposure exposure to what this looks like to date. So that's what, because it is, owning a startup is not for the faint of heart. It's late nights and early mornings, a lot of time at 30,000 feet. But I sit here and I think about the opportunity to really create this incredible business and to have women at the helm. And that's certainly what inspires me.
I love it. I think it's great. I'm bummed that we just lost Anna-Lea. She could just she wants to just run into the room and pop next to you.
Out of here. I'm unclear what happened. She just popped in and grabbed her laptop. So I don't know if there was a charger. I don't know if she was a dead laptop scenario, but.
Oh. That almost happened to me earlier at the top of the show. Boom.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
We've just enough time. I know you were starting on your answer. This is hilarious. People who make it this far in the episode would be like, what is going on over there? But I didn't want to close out the show before you had a chance to come back and finish up your answer on what inspires you.
Yeah. And I think I basically spoke this in my last one, but just to reiterate, definitely being an inspiring role model to other women who may never even think it's possible, right, to start a technology business. It took a lot of guts for us to do it. And also just to my kids and basically any young women. I think that is super inspiring, just knowing that they can see that it's possible and it's even kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, very cool. I align with that. My mom inspired me when I was young. She worked 2 jobs, single mom with 3 kids, made it to all our games and practices. So it kind of always gave me the motivation of there's no scenario that's too tough. If she could do it under that, I've got it easy. So,
right.
But that's some confirmation there for you on that. But this has been awesome. I really appreciate both of your time getting to learn more about Remarkably. It's exciting to see you guys growing from, I think, Anna-Lea, the first time we spoke, you weren't allowed to tell me everything. You're like, well, we don't have everything ready to roll yet. It was, before you guys were an official, incorporation. So I love it. Can't wait to make it down for Friday happy hour. I just got to get that on the calendar sometime. Before we close out, let everyone know if they want to connect with either one of you and learn more about Remarkably, where do they go and how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can go to remarkably.io. We have a dead sexy website that is very cool. And then you can email me. So Erina at remarkably.io. You can email Annalee, but she'll just send it to me.
I'm more back of house.
That's all good. Well, I appreciate you guys both on the show, and can't wait to see where you're headed in the next year. And then we'll have to do a follow up little one-off call on that last question because I can't really let you off the hook.
I know.
Completely on that one. We'll come back to that one.
I would love that. No, it was a great question. Well, thank you for having us.
You bet. My pleasure. I'll see you guys later.
Fun. Thank you.
Bye.
Well, that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening to the TechNest podcast. Hey, don't forget you can get on the email list so you never miss an upcoming episode. That's technest.io. That's technest.io. Get on the email list. Go to the App Store, whether you found us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you found us. Leave us a 5-star review and share it with your friends. And if you've got a guest or someone that you'd like to recommend, or if you think that you'd be a great guest on the show, hey, send me an email, nate@realteampanda.com. That's nate@realteampanda.com. See you guys later.